Hello and welcome back to the virtual classroom for Comp 3077 online. Welcome to my online students and face-to-face students alike. I am your voice in the videos, Professor Mike Sloan from the Kinlan School of Business. Not necessarily your prof for the section that you're in, but the lucky guy that gets to deliver to you all this awesome Excel in the format of these videos. So the first few, I should say, which were the previous last few we did, weeks 1, 2, and 3, those videos are a little bit longer because we're still in the earlier stages of getting started and learning the platform, and there's a lot of reminders. I know last week we had 20 minutes of little things I wanted to make sure I reminded you about. And from now on, the case videos from this point forward will just go right into the case. So without further ado, we are going to cover the case demonstration for week 4. I want to be into it within 2 minutes of starting the video. Keep these videos a little bit shorter now without all the reminders, the requirement for all the reminders. And this one is all about charts. And as I keep reminding you too, which this one I will do every week, is always go to FOL and just check the module item to see what we're covering that week, the module file. Lots of different stuff on charts, which we will cover as we go through the steps, link to the virtual classroom, which you're already in. Chapter notes available as always if you want to look at them for extra review, and then 3% case and a 1% quiz as usual. We're a couple weeks away now from your first test if we're in week 4, which is a 20% evaluation. And there will be a video posted for that too that just helps you to get prepared for the test. It will not go through all the steps in the case. There are no step-by-step videos for the tests. Otherwise, it wouldn't be much of a test. But that is coming up eventually. For now, we got to get the week 4 case done. So I'm logged into my instructor account now. It looks the same as one of your student accounts, a tiny bit different, some of the settings in the platform, but basically the same. So you just go down here, click on the week 4 case. You guys are comfortable with the process now. I'll still go through this each time to show you that I'm starting the case with you in the video and completing it in the video and getting 100% in the video. So let's click start. Let's grab the instructions. So again, my computer, as you noticed last week and probably the other 2 weeks, it's set to download 2 downloads like most of yours are doing, but I have my browser settings set to ask me where I want to put it. So when I download the start file, I can rename it as I'm downloading it. I mentioned that last week. That was another way to rename it. Most of you probably don't have your browsers set like that. It probably just goes right to downloads, and then you have to go into downloads and rename it. Just don't forget to rename it. I still did have a few students in my face-to-face class last week that got to the end and couldn't submit their file and forgot they had to change the name. And that's all you ever do is change the 1 to a 2 right there, just that one little digit. You never have to type in the .xlsx, whether you see it or not. You just change the 1 to a 2 because some of your settings will not show the .xlsx like mine is showing. And then open the instructions and the start file and you'll be good to go. All right, so we're at 3 minutes here, not quite 2 minutes, but we've got the instructions open in the start file. As always, you want to click Enable Editing. If any of you are logging in and you're seeing that band across the top, I've mentioned this a few times too, you're going to want to log back into Office. It's just not recognizing that you're logged into your Fanshawe version of Microsoft Office. So I'm going to enable editing on this one too. You can see I've got just a couple worksheets in addition to the documentation sheet to start with. You're probably going to end up making some more sheets in here somewhere along the way with the instructions. I think it's instruction 9 where you actually make a new worksheet. So let's get started with number 1 here. Your sales manager is Arjun. He's compiling sales and advertising data for the marketing department, wants to use Excel charts to illustrate the data and emphasize trends. And charts are great for that. I mean, I used to use charts to get sales. I would literally, I was working for a big telecom company, so I would analyze the costs and what they were spending with the competitor they were with and what they would be spending with us. This would work really well as long as it was less when they moved to us. And showing them the charts and the way I had the data set up, I would get sales. Excel earned me sales. It was like a sales assistant. And charts are a good way to do that because they help you to kind of visualize the data in a much different way than you can do by just looking at numbers. So we're going to start on the employer plans worksheet. So let's pop over to the Excel file, go to employer plans. And this worksheet shows the number of health insurance plans sold by quarterly plan type. Arjun wants to compare the number of plans sold in quarter 4. So in cell F5 to F9, add conditional formatting and show some data bars. So I've mentioned this in a few other cases that they have these cool things called data bars, and you go to the same place on the Home tab to get to conditional formatting. You highlight the cells first. So F5 to F9, F5 to F9, Home tab, conditional formatting. So if you look at this, what data bars are going to do is basically what the image is showing you. They're going to put little tiny bars. So you're creating a bar chart essentially behind the numbers inside the cell. So just instead of just the numbers, you have something that allows you to see where they're sitting up against each other more visually. And F5 to F9, not 10. It's funny that I did that because it reminded me to point out a common mistake that students make when they do steps like this. Whenever you're using something like data bars, or you're doing like the average of something and there's a total right below it or something like you always want to make sure you don't make the mistake of picking up the total, because then it's not actually going to look accurate when you have one bar that's filling up the whole cell and whatnot. So we're just going F5 to F9 here, which I've highlighted now, and we're choosing gradient fill blue data bars. So go to the Home tab, conditional formatting, go to data bars. You'll see gradient fill and solid fill. So this is going to be one of your go-to options. I don't believe it's the first one. Oh, it is the first one. So what's this one? Light blue? What's that other one? Light blue. Yeah, so it's the first one, blue data bars. Click the button and you're done with step one. And you just made some just click off that range so you can take a look. You just made some pretty slick looking built-in chart functionality to the cells by using conditional formatting. So it's kind of a one-off built-in type of mini chart you can do. That's how I'd refer to data bars. I think that's a really neat tool that I've always thought of as like a mini chart. Another version of mini charts. So these first two steps, before we get into the actual charts and changing things around and working with settings, are both examples of things you can do if you don't want to build an entire chart and just have something right in the context of the numbers that gives somebody a visual representation of where the numbers sit up against each other. So Arjun also wants to provide a general impression, I love that word, that they're using that word for it, of the annual trend for each of the plan types. So how the trends are moving and then how they're moving when compared to the other ones. So in the range G5 to G10, add line spark lines based on the data in C5 to F10. So if you look at G5 to G10, okay, that's right here. Okay, and we are going to include the total here because we're just working on a trend over the course of the four numbers across the row. So we're going to do each of the different plans, and we're also going to look at the trend for the total. So unlike the first one that only went down to 9, this is going to go all the way down there. And I would highlight, there's two different ways you can do this. You can highlight the data first and then put the spark lines where you want to go. I would highlight the destination of the spark lines first and then go and insert spark lines. So these can be found by going to the Insert tab, and then there's a whole section on spark lines. If your monitor is a little more sort of squished, it'll still have a spark lines menu. And under spark lines, we're going to choose line. And the data range now we can pick up and highlight and put it right into that box. So doing it the other way around, you could highlight the data first and then it would put it right in there, and then you'd highlight the location range. I think this is the better way to do it. So highlight the data range, and once you click OK, you get these spark lines. And I had mentioned this in a previous case that when you start to do things that you can make a lot of adjustments to, like header footers that we did in week 2, when you're sitting on them or in them, for example, like the header footer, you have a menu associated with what you can do to them. When you click off the items, the menu is no longer part of that, part of your tabs. So sitting back on the spark lines, you have this menu. Let me get a drink of water. Hang on one second. You can see all the different stuff you can do to the spark lines. So you'll notice as I click off and then click back on, spark lines, when you do them like this, they're generally set up as a group. And anything you do in terms of formatting and how you set stuff up will happen to the whole group unless you click the button here to ungroup, in which case you could individually format each line. So once you make, and you probably also noticed When we were in the insert menu for the lines, there's a few different types. You can do column. You don't have to do line spark lines. You can also do column. And then you can do win-loss, where it has like the top bottoms as you're going across a chart. So there's a few different kinds. We're just sticking to the basic line type here. And sitting on it, I have this extra tab there with the extra menu items specific to spark lines. I click off it, it goes away. Click back on the spark lines, it is there. So that leads us to step 3, which asks us to change them a little bit. So, and this is a change that you're probably barely going to notice depending on how good your monitor is. But they want you to apply the blue-gray accent 6 darker 50% color to the spark lines in the range G5 to G10. So it's just telling you it's all of them. You don't even have to highlight them all. You can sit on any of them and it'll apply to the whole group. So I could be sitting here, 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 or I could highlight them all. Any of those options are fine. And sparkline color. Okay, so you guys have already been using styles for a bit. You've been using WordArt styles. That's not what they're talking about. These are specific styles, and they are asking you to change the sparkline color. So whenever you have charts and objects in the charts and different settings with the charts, and you're doing a SAM case, make sure you pay very close attention to what they're asking you to change. This is a common mistake by students. A lot of them will go and choose the style and not find it and just try and pick the closest one. They're just asking you to change the color. Sparkline color. So sitting on the spark lines, go here, and we're going to choose 10th column, 6th row, blue-gray accent 6, darker 50. So we'll go over 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's all the way over. And then blue-gray accent darker 40, 50. No, sorry, this one here. 3 down, not 4, 5. 2 down. Wait, where are we? Oh, it's all the way down to the bottom. What is wrong with me? Oh yeah, it does say 6th row. Yeah, it says it right there. But that's fine. And you guys might do the same thing. You just, as long as you see the right color come up, then you choose it, and then it's changed. Now, I could kind of see the change. When I change the color, you can barely tell, but all of them changed, and you're good to move on to the next step. So, and it didn't matter that I was only sitting on the one, they all changed together. And next step is part B of number 3, which is show the high point and low point data markers. And this is literally as simple as going to the show menu while you're still sitting on the spark lines and clicking high point and low point. So is any of this tough? I mean, I know most of you are probably nodding and shaking your head. No, it's not. And that's what I've been saying since week 1. Until we get into some of the more advanced stuff, which doesn't really happen until after the first test, 95% of this stuff and knowing how to do this in Excel is just a matter of knowing where it is and that you can actually do it. It doesn't involve like a high level of computing skills and people just don't bother to learn it. And that's why you can look so skilled in the workplace when you do know how to do these things. And that's, I agree. I mean, I think with the high points and low points identified there, it does make it a little easier to see what they're doing. You can also zoom in a bit. Just remember, you can always zoom in and out on a SAM case without it affecting your mark at all, as long as zooming is not part of the step. Number 4. So they made this a little easier on us. We don't have to make a chart quite yet. We'll get to that in a minute. Making a chart in Excel is as easy as highlighting the data you want to include in the chart and then choosing your chart type. They have already made a chart for you in number 4, and they just want you to change some things around. So just like the spark lines, when you click on them and they have their own menu tab right here, if a chart has been created in Excel and you click on the chart, it has a couple menu tabs. You have the chart design tab and the format tab, both of which we will do some stuff from that particular tab menu in this case, in each of them on different charts. So I'm going to click on the chart, and right away I went to the chart design tab menu, and it says change the position of the legend. So this chart, no, data labels, not legend. Sorry, that was the next thing, move the legend. Change the position of the data labels. So a lot of these charts by default, when you pick the chart, they will have data labels. And if they don't have data labels, you can actually turn them on by going to data labels and pick the type of data labels you want, which is based on location here. Pretty self-explanatory. you have data labels here, and they want you to change the position of them. So because of how the charts options have worked since 2012, I believe, since we've had the ribbon and the tabs, you don't have to individually click on all the items to change it around. That does kind of ensure that you're changing the right thing if you're right clicking for settings and stuff like that. But as long as you clicked on the right chart, you can simply go to data labels and choose where you want them to be without ever clicking on the data. Because if you click on one data label, it highlights all of them. And then if you were to go and change them, they would move the same way. But you don't have to do that. You can be off this. So I'm going to click off the chart, click on it. On chart design, I'm just simply going to go here and choose chart element, which you can also do from here, but it's not, this is just kind of turning things on and off. And if you expand the menu, you can do it from there. I think because you don't see the whole menu at once, it's just a better sort of best practice when you're sitting on the chart and it takes maybe an extra half a second to go up here and use the options from here. But if you're on the fly and you get comfortable with it, that is a nice way to do it too. There's always several ways to do things. So they want you to change the data labels to inside end. So sitting on the chart, go to chart element, data labels, and choose inside end. You were on outside end. Now you just went into the inside end of the pie pieces. Notice how I didn't have the labels highlighted. And that's that entire part of that step is just clicking that button. Go in there, inside end. Part B, move the legend to the right. Yes, you can click on the legend and it is an object within the chart object itself and you can move it around with your mouse, but that's not what they're asking you to do. There's a specific option that will move it for you to the right. And again, you don't need to be highlighting the legend. You can just be on the chart, chart element, legend, right. You're just choosing to move it over to the right. And that's the point of this exercise, is showing you if you want to clean the chart up a bit or make it look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing next to the data, you can just play around with these options until you like what you see. Now, in the context of a SAM case, you need to do exactly what they say to get it right. That's why I'm saying don't start moving it around with your mouse. Choose the fixed set options, which is the better way to do it anyway, because it's quicker. Number 5, let's create a chart. So that was kind of cool. I just went into the chart and changed a couple options. If I wanted to change the title, you can double click on the title and type a new one right in there. Okay, click off the title when you're done. Titles just operates like a text box, which you can insert from the insert menu under text right there. Text box. So, but that's not how you do it on a chart though, of course. If you're on a chart, sitting on the chart object, you go to chart design and you can choose whatever title you want. You can turn the title off. There'll be quiz questions on that. We're going to do some more stuff with that later in the case as well here. The previous chart case used to have every single chart you had to do different titles for the charts. And I don't think you have to do as many on this one and students were just getting nonstop typos. Like I said, in I think the first case, anytime you're typing less than like a whole paragraph, the less you're typing, the more likely you are to have typos. It's funny that way. So now they want you to make a chart. So as I already mentioned, it's easy. It's as easy as highlighting the data you want in a chart and then making it. So when you're making a pie chart, usually it's going to involve data that isn't right next to each other because pie charts are usually just about totals. So on this same worksheet, we have not moved worksheets. We're going to create a 2D pie chart based on F5 to F9. So go ahead and highlight F5 to F9. F5 to F9. So that's the quarter 4. So not totals, but quarter 4. So yeah, we're just doing a quarter 4 chart. Cool. Okay. So F5 to F9. Another obvious pie chart would just be to do the totals of each of the quarters and then highlight the quarters as your field names, like for your chart, your category names. So we're moving on here, F5 to F9. And then we want the labels, category labels. Category names, labels, whatever. B5 to B9. So I go over here and I highlight B5 to B9. Oh man, what the heck? F5 to F9, B5. So I taught you guys this in week 1. When you want to highlight stuff that is not right next to each other, highlight F5 to F9, hit the control key on your keyboard or the command key on a Mac, click and highlight the next thing, let go of everything. You've got the 2 non-adjacent ranges highlighted. Now you can also go to the insert menu and insert the chart and add the ranges later, but that again is not the ideal way to do it. ideally you highlight the ranges first, and they can be done in whatever order you want. I believe they said 2D pie. So charts are all categorized where you're picking them up and making charts from, and there's all kinds of different types. If you went to recommended charts, it probably would recommend a 2D pie. I think it's right there. But if you know it's a pie chart, you can go to the category and you can see the different types of pies you can make, and they just want standard 2D pie. So you click the chart you want, and if you've highlighted the correct data to begin with, it just makes the chart and it's done. And now every chart you make in SAM, the first thing it's going to probably ask you to do is position it. So resize them. So here's how I'm going to teach you how to do this so you don't get anything wrong in SAM. I'm going to repeat that one more time. I'm going to teach you how to do this chart positioning thing on a SAM case so that you do not get anything wrong when you submit it. And the reason I'm saying that twice is because when we go back to the chart, you'll notice the chart they put in there. Charts are very easily moved. Click anywhere in the white space in the chart, click, drag, let go. Don't click on any of the objects because then you might move them within the chart, which you can also do, but just moving the chart, just click and move it. So I moved it over here. We're going to put it approximately there in a second, but I wanted to show you this one. Notice how this one is positioned so it's right into the corners of where the grid lines are intersecting, which makes it look very neat and tidy and clean. And historically, when students do that on a SAM case, the majority of the time they will get it marked incorrect because it's like a teeny tiny bit too far, a teeny tiny bit. So the way to always get it right is to do it the way I'm about to show you to do. Start with the left corner. Notice how I haven't resized or done anything. All I've done is move it. What you do is you place the left corner first. And I'm going to spend a little bit of extra time showing it to you this first time. And then every time I'll just remind you, don't be touching the grid lines. So left corner goes in I-19. So let's go to I. It's actually down here, not over there. I-19. So you can also do this in advance to kind of make sure you know where the row is that you're going into. So you're in I. You can see that there. Okay. And you're going to go up to 19. Then again, I'm going to check, make sure I'm still in 19. And the key here is not to jam it right into the corner, even though the solution files they give us have it like right into the corner, like it's perfectly aligned into the corner. I don't know why, but whenever students do that on their computers and we do it in the lab, more often than not, Sam will say, nope, it's not right in I-19. It's over the edge. So you just always be in the white space of the cell without touching the grid line. So when it says here, place the left corner in I-19, I am in I-19, within. Notice that word, within, without touching any of the grid lines. Then I scroll down, I go over here, and I resize the right corner to be where it wants the right corner. So you never resize until you do the lower right. Place the lower left, not touching the grid lines, then go to the lower right, and you're going to have that within O34. So here's O, and here's 34. So I would go right over into it and then make sure you're in 30. So I'm still not in 34. And you don't have to use any of the handlebars other than the lower right, literally, because you can use all these and resize it, but I would just be consistent in the way you do it and the way I'm teaching it, because see, it's nice and in there. It's filling in, but it's not touching the grid lines. That's the key. It's not anywhere. There's still white space around it. So always leave a little bit of white space. You'll never get the position marked wrong. If you try and move it right, if you do get the position wrong and you have white space, you're probably just in the wrong row. So I'm checking my 34, I'm checking my O and my I, and it's there, it's in the right space. Moving on to part 6, add a title. I would copy and paste all of these. Try and grab them without the extra space. If you get the extra space, you can get rid of it after, because it's easy when you're copying this, it's easy to kind of spill over and grab that extra space. Right-click copy or Control-C. Go and double-click into the chart title box, highlight over the text that's in there, and paste. Now, I know I've been telling you for weeks, whenever you're done putting something into a cell, hit Enter, but we are not in a cell here. We are in a text box. So if you hit Enter, it will actually add a hard Enter, which Sam will see as a typo. So you can undo that by hitting Control-Z. As soon as you're done putting the text into there that you have to put in there, click outside the box. That's it. Just click outside the box, outside the text box, and you're done. Now, you probably noticed it is a slightly different format. So if I undo and go back to what it was in there, it's not bolded, and it might even be a different font type too. So when I paste that in there, it's a different. Now, as a best practice, I would love to see you all, as you're pasting it, go to here and keep text only, which is similar to, excuse me, the match destination formatting thing we've been doing. And if you keep text only, then it will match the formatting that was in there when you first put it in. Just a little bit of water there. Always be hydrated, people. But what I will also admit to you is that Sam doesn't actually mark it wrong if you just paste in the text, because it's only checking for the text itself. It's not checking it unless they say to do any formatting. You will typically never get anything wrong if it isn't formatted correctly, if it's just checking to see that the right content is in the title box. So just to make you feel better, I will actually paste it in and leave the formatting from the Word file and click outside the box, even though as a best practice, I would like to see you guys lining up the formatting by going keep text only. Apply style for to the chart. So you want to choose a different chart style. Sitting anywhere in the chart, you should have the chart tab up. Use the style drop down and choose style 4, which is very likely 4 over, and it is. You can see there's some cool ones here. Don't start picking different ones because they end up undoing possibly some of the other stuff you've done to it. Just with the SAM case, always pick the one it says to pick and move on to the next step. But there are a lot of different options for different chart types and styles, and it's really makes you look quite versatile when you start doing that stuff in the office and all your charts look different. And change the colors to monochromatic palette 6. So chart colors is all the way back over here. Same tab next to chart styles of the chart colors. And monochromatic 6, just start going down until you see them. I would go to monochromatic and probably go 6 down. You're gonna have to scroll a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's the same colors you had on the chart above on the same worksheet, so that makes perfect sense. So click on that one to pick it. You're into monochromatic 6. Position of the data labels to inside end. Okay, now I don't see any data labels. How am I going to position them? Well, the same way you positioned them in the above step, you would go here and choose data, and it will turn them on and position them for you at the same time. Inside end. Oops, where? Yeah, there, good, they're on. And then I clicked in that other cell right after by accident. Change the data labels to show a percentage rather than a value. So now is where I'm going to expose you to the ease and magic of right-clicking on things. So you know how to turn stuff on and off already and move stuff around in a chart and do whatnot to it. And you just created these data labels. And I already showed you earlier too, if you click on one data label, it'll highlight them all at once. Actually, if you click on the same one again, you can individually do stuff to that, change the format, change whatever. But I want them all highlighted. So click off here, click on any of the data labels, and then right click and go Format Data Label. And it will take you to label options. You noticed as soon as I did that, it opened this up on the right-hand side. But when I right clicked and went to Format Data Label, it took me to the label options. And this is exposing you to the fact that there are always all these different things in Excel. And especially when you start making object-based items like charts, right-clicking will show you all types of different stuff you can do to those things. And if I want to change the data labels, let's right-click them and see what happens. I mean, you can change the fonts too, and there's a font box that comes up usually when you see it's already there. It's like right there. But I'm doing all the data labels. So again, click on one, they all highlight, Format Data Labels, and we are changing the data label to content to show percentage rather than a value. So go to percentage, turn off the value. Notice how they were both there at the same time. That was kind of cool. Show leader lines was already checked, so I wouldn't mess with that because you don't want to mess with the theme you picked, the style. You don't want to mess with the style you picked by changing anything else they didn't say to change, because it will check to see that those other settings are still the same likely. Move the chart legend to the right again, like we did with the one above. So, and you don't have to be, you can close that now that you're done with the data labels. We changed them to percentage. Did they do anything with number format? Nope, that's it. because you can change the number format down here. You can adjust number formats and you can change, but it didn't say to do that. It said change the data label content to show percentage rather than a value. It could have also said change the number format to percentage, but it didn't tell you to, so you don't have to do that. Moving on, we can close that. We can click back in the chart anywhere, go to chart design, go to chart legend, put it on the right. And that was part F, and we are now on to step 7. Arjun also wants to insert a column chart that combines the quarterly sales data in a single column for each health plan type. Create the chart as follows. Stack column based on B4 to F9. So usually with a column chart, you have 2 sets of labels, like 2 data, not necessarily multiple data series, that's with a combo chart, but 2 sets of labels, and you don't have to highlight non-adjacent ranges. So if you just go B4 to F9, you'll see you're picking up the headers for the different quarters along with the plan names, and you're not picking up the totals, you're just doing B4 to F9. You can always, if you're a little uncomfortable highlighting bigger ranges, you can always just type them in and hit enter, and it will bring you to the same thing, B4 to F9. And then insert chart. This time we're going to be inserting one that's a little bit different. It is a stacked column. So I would go to the column category, and stacked is this one here. It's the second choice. I know you can just start hovering over them and figuring out which is which. There's 3D stack column. So stack column is, if they don't specify 3D or anything outside of that, they do just want the first option for stack column, which is the second choice over. Click it. It'll drop it right in the middle of the worksheet like it did last time. You are going to position the left corner in B12. So drag with the white space, drag it over till it's in B12. You know you're in B, you know you're in 12, and I would just kind of shimmy it in there till it's nice and cornered, but not touching the corner, not like this one that they did for you. That one was like that. We haven't moved it. You can leave it exactly the same. And it would make sense in the real world to drag these out and make them exactly the same size, like these 2 right here. But I just don't want you to have to resubmit for the sake of resubmitting. And every time I see students do it that way, which is the better looking way, more aesthetically pleasing, I'm not denying that, Sam is so picky about the position and it marks it wrong. So that's why I'm saying just leave it in the cell so that it's not touching a grid line. Then you go down, you use the right handlebar to do the right corner. Lower right, G34. So we're already in G. We just need to get down to 34. So you're dragging it all the way down to there. So same row as the other one. And I can bring it out a little bit to get it. Just don't touch the grid line. And as long as it's in that white space, even if it's a little bit further to the left or the right, or as long as it's within, as their instructions say, you will get it correct. So B12, G34, good stuff. Title is going, so this is kind of just a repeat of the last one with changing some different settings. So we're going to go in here, double click on the title, paste it right in there. Yes, I would like you as a best practice to match, keep text only to match the formatting. And I will do it this time because I did the other one. Well, the other one changed anyway once I chose a theme, so it didn't matter. That's probably why it never gets marked wrong, because it changes over anyway once you choose a different theme. But are you changing? No, you're not changing the theme here. So it's better to have done it there. So here, you know what? I will not do it that way just to show you that Sam won't mark it wrong. I'm going to paste the bold in there. I'm not going to hit enter because I'm in a text box. I'm going to click outside the box and move on to the next step. I just want you to see that that'll still be marked correct. Change the maximum value to 10,000 on the vertical axis. So this is really cool. So you'll notice here that one of them was almost 10,000. It was really close, but not quite. And then by default, Excel will give you this extra space because it always assumes you want to be a little bigger than the range. But to me, that doesn't look very clean. It's like a waste of white space. And I don't want to, white space is not bad if you're desktop printing and stuff like that. But when you're using a chart, you don't just want extra space in there. You want to show that the numbers are filling the space. So if you want to change this axis to stop at 10,000 and you're going in here and you're not seeing these options, right? All you can do here is just do axis titles. what did I just show you about these data labels? Click on them, click on the axis, right click, format axis. And you can also individually do, but you're doing the whole axis. So click any number in the axis anywhere, it'll highlight the whole axis, right click, format axis, go over here, start exploring around. Oh yeah, cool. Maximum 12,000. I'm just gonna change that to 10,000. Enter. See how much better that looked? Hopefully you guys are watching that. You can rewind the video and watch it again, but now I'm filling up most of the space there. You don't have all this dead, unused space. It's a very subtle thing to do with your charts. It's getting a bit nerdy, but I mean, nerdy's cool now, right? Like we want our stuff to look as good as it can, especially if it's about sales or making money or it's a marketing package. So yeah, we don't want to leave space up there. It might actually create like the negative connotation that there's some unfilled gap in in how much they have to sell, right? Like we don't want to do that. And then finally, change, so that was part B, change the colors to monochromatic palette 6. Again, same one. So, oops, sorry, microphone. Go down here, scroll down a bit, monochromatic 6. So that one, we didn't change the whole theme. So now I'm going to show you that you're going to be okay just pasting the fonts in there, even though I want you to get in the habit of matching the destination. So we're done with number 8. That's quite a bit of stuff here. Let's save your file, Control S, and let's move on to number 9. Arjun also wants a chart that compares quarterly and total sales of the 3 PPO health plans, whichever those, so PPO, the first 3 there. So we're still in the same worksheet and we're making more charts, and I'm going to zoom out on this one a little bit. I'm going to close the format window, zoom out a bit. You can always close that. It'll come back whenever you need to reformat stuff. So for most monitors, we are filling up, we're getting pretty full here. So I'm wondering what they're going to have us do with this chart, which I already hinted at the beginning of the case. So, I make my formula bar bigger. Oh, it's because I'm zooming, changing the zoom. Create a clustered column, and this is going to be a combo chart. And we're going to do the data in the non-adjacent ranges, B4 to F7. So we're going to do B4 to F7. And then we're going to do B10 to F10. So we're comparing the PPO health plans against the total to see how much of it, like basically, how big of a deal are the PPO plans when it comes to the total. So then go and highlight with your control key, hold down your control key or your command key, highlight over those in 10, B10 to F10. B10 to F10. I always double check my ranges. Although it is pretty easy to fix. Like if you did this and you only highlighted 9, like here's a chart that's already made, right? If you go to chart design and you go to select data, you can make adjustments to the data here in the chart. See how it has the range right there? You can highlight this, you can switch the row and column. That's actually on the quiz, I believe. So there's stuff you can do after the fact too. You're not just stuck with, you don't have to rebuild the whole chart if you need to just make a quick adjustment to the data. Okay, we just got to pick up the data again because I unhighlighted it when I was showing you those examples of how you can edit charts after the fact. So B4, again, B4 to F7. So it includes the category names and then the 3 different PPO plans. Hold down your control key, B10 to F10. Now, when we go to the insert tab, which you should already be on, I've been bouncing around here. If you don't see this type of chart, like I don't see a category for combo charts here. There's line charts, there's column. Okay, these are kind of cool. There's hierarchy charts. There's combo there. So they do have combo here. So, but if you're not sure, and just if your monitor isn't tight enough, sometimes it doesn't show all the categories, but it is there, like the combo chart category. But if you go to recommended charts, it should pick the right one. That's another way you can do it. And this here, showing the combination of the line with the column charts, would be the same as if you went to combo and chose clustered column line. Okay, it's the same thing. So, but what's interesting is I tried both ways, like as I was doing the video. And if you choose the recommended chart, it actually makes the elite PPO a column like it should be. And then the next step wouldn't make any sense. But so I'm just showing you the recommended chart section so you know it's there, and that's usually what I use in the real world. Because SAM is so sensitive, the way you want to do this is to go in here and choose that first option there. And when you choose that first option there, and I'm still not 100% sure why, and you can see the difference. As you go to this option, you can see it puts all 3 of the PPOs in as column charts like it should. And when you choose this option here, it makes the elite PPO a line chart for some reason and not a column chart. And that's fine, because this is another great way to show you another example of something you can do to adjust charts after they're made, after they have been made. Sitting on the chart, so that was the first step there. Okay, so we've highlighted these things and we've created a clustered column line combination chart. Assuming you use the combo chart menu item, which is what I had you use there, it's going to make the elite PPO, for some reason, a line chart, maybe because it's right in the middle, even though this is a line chart, which it should be because it's a combination chart. And it says change the chart type to show the elite PPO plan as a clustered column chart. So you can change all of these around after the fact if you want. You just simply go to change chart type. And if it's not a combo chart, it's not going to have all these different things in there. It'll just have the main data. But this one, for some reason, became a line, and you're going to change it to clustered column. And then that's how it should look. And I am noticing like the way that's formatted. So that was part number B there. These are closer together than had you chosen the one in recommended chart. So Sam would likely mark that wrong. So you definitely want to do it the way I did it. So to build that chart, you should have chosen the first option from here. That's the one you want. Okay. And then you got to go in after, and from the chart design tab, per the instructions, you change that one to a line, which I already did. Okay. Part C. So part C is move the chart to a new worksheet and use PPA combo chart as the sheet name. So right away, copy that. I don't have to type that out. And we added new sheets and did sheet names and sheet tab colors back in week 1. So I'm going to copy that. And then with this chart here, the manager is just like, okay, cool. Like, that's good that you made another chart that I asked for with the PPO stuff, but this sheet's getting too busy. So you can simply go up here, sitting on that chart, go to the Move Chart button, and make it as a new sheet. And call the new sheet PPO Combo Chart. If you already did that and like left it sheet 1, just change it after the fact. So once you click OK, it puts the chart there and you can change it here now. You don't have to change it. Now, often when Sam has you making new worksheets, it tells you it wants you to put them in a specific location. It does not tell you that here. So that means you leave it exactly where it put it. You leave it in the default location. And if you scroll down, you can check that. Yeah, it is in front of the employer plans. So that's good, in front of employer plans. So now we've got this chart and it's its own sheet, which is another way to do charts, right? And then if you ever turn this into a PDF, that would be a full page, right? Which is kind of neat and clean that way. And starting with number 10, you're going to add a secondary axis, not access, not getting the access, but axis for the total series. So you want to add another axis. And by doing that, it won't be out here in no person's land, right? We talked about in that second chart we made about better using the right white space, So we're going to use another axis for this. So we haven't done a lot of work with axes so far, but I know if you probably noticed, if you go in here, there's axes, horizontal, vertical. Okay, that's obvious when you have a column chart. Usually they're both there. Axis titles, so there's nothing on here to add it. So what did I say about that right-clicking thing? Click on the actual data that is the one they want you to add an axis for. Right-click and go to Format Data Series. And right away, you have the option to make a secondary axis because it was plotted on the primary. And you see what happens there. Then you were allowed to put numbers over here and numbers over there. The numbers over here relate to those columns, and these relate to the line chart. And it's a much better use of the white space in a combination chart. You almost want to do that every time, because most of the time when you're doing combination charts, it's showing the total plus all the different series like we did here, which is not all of them, but just the PPOs. But it's a very neat skill to have. And all it is right clicking and checking off that button like I just did, or command clicking. I think it's still on a Mac. You can right click. I forgot. I'm pretty sure it's something to do with the command. You Mac users know exactly what to do. And there is a Mac hint here. Speaking of Mac users, select the total series and use the format pane to add that. Yeah. Okay. So with the Mac, you don't have to do a lot of pretending you can right click like you can in Windows, because when you click on the stuff in the Mac, a lot of it just comes up. I think there was another note. Oh no, they might have had. So there isn't a note on that when they did the changing the limit in the bounds, but there they do give you a little hint there. Add primary and secondary vertical axis titles to the chart. So that's easy to turn on. Sitting on the chart anywhere doesn't mean that you're just highlighting that. Don't worry about that. Go to axis titles, and you're going to go primary. Which one was it? Now you have a bunch of them because you added an axis. Primary vertical, secondary vertical. Turn them on. Primary, you got to do it one at a time. Primary vertical, secondary vertical. And now we can add the titles so people know what the numbers actually correspond to, which obviously you probably figured we were going to need to do that as soon as you put all this stuff together that way. And left vertical axis is planned sold per quarter. That's 4 words, lots of non-capitals with capitals, so just copy it. Click in the left vertical axis, highlight over the text with your mouse, paste in, click outside the box. Don't hit enter, don't add spaces, make sure you didn't have extra spaces in there. On your Mac, by the way, or on Windows, depending on the settings in your computer, it might show this oriented horizontally, but most of the PCs show it up and down like that. And that's fine. Don't worry about it if it's horizontal instead of up and down. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Enter total plans sold as the vertical axis title. Copy. I don't have extra spaces. That's good. Double click, highlight over the text. If when you're doing that, you end up moving those or anything like that, just click out of there and undo the move. You just want to make sure Sam's not marking you wrong because of silly stuff like that. Sam does get a little sensitive about positioning. Notice that it didn't say anything about the lower titles, any more axis titles, but it does want you to put a chart title in there finally, which is, I think, the same as the worksheet title. Oh no, it's not. This is PPO plans sold. And just paste it in there. Click outside the box. Do not worry about formatting. As I've told you, it doesn't say to format it, so don't worry about it. Don't move it or do anything like that or have extra spaces. Finally, part F. Change the outline color of the line chart. Outline of a line chart. That's kind of a misnomer almost, because when you're outlining, I'll show you what I mean. So if we go back to the chart here and we were to change the outline colors of some of these columns, for example, it would just change a visible outline you could see, and you'd still have a fill color in the middle. When you have just a line, and here's how I would change an outline color. I would usually click on the object I want to adjust, and then under the Format tab, you can do different stuff to it. You can change the shape fill, the shape outline, or the shape effects. If we go to the shape fill right now, it has no identified color on it, even though it is clearly this. And to just to give you more insight, and another way to do it, if you right-click, as always, if you go in here, you'll be able to get to a bunch of the similar options. But this is interesting because if you go to the line, so I went to the shape fill button, and then I have the line and the marker. So the marker, line. So when I'm under line, it shows all these options. And you can see it does identify that red here, right? But if I change the shape outline of a line, you're pretty much changing the color of the line. So the correct way to do it is to go to the line itself, which I think with the markers, you can change the border, which is the outline, which is set to red right now. But they don't have it under line. So you always want to make sure you're very specific to what Sam is asking for so you get it right. So this is the color of the line itself because it doesn't say border. but it is just a line. And then if I go up here and change this to the color it's supposed to be, which is this one, it's blue gray accent. That is right. Blue gray accent 6. Yeah. There's no percentage. Blue gray accent 6. So I go up there and I change shape outline, blue gray accent 6. You could see it changed the color of the line, which is funny because that's not actually the shape outline, but it does say outline. So the correct way to do it, according to Sam, would be there, but it looks like you could have done it there too, over by right clicking, like I keep saying, gets you to everything. And if you go to the marker, you could see it change the marker to that color as well. It's interesting that it's because it's a line chart. There's no body to it, right? So when you change the outline, it pretty much changes everything. So just do it that way. Go in there, choose that color with that line highlighted, and save your file again because we just finished step 10. And now we only got a few steps left. So 11, go to the next worksheet. So we're finally going to that ladder worksheet, which wouldn't be the next. It would be the one over here next to employer plans. And we're going to do a little bit more in terms of charts. We're going to create a scatter chart based on C4. So now we've made a couple charts, right? It's not too bad. You just highlight the data and choose your chart type. So if we want to do scatter, we've never done a scatter. It doesn't matter. You just choose scatter. And as long as you got the right data highlighted, you should be fine. So C4 to D16. So we're going to highlight C4 over to D down to 16. C4 to D16. Scatter. Okay, so insert. These are scatter types. And does it say which kind of scatter? Create a scatter chart based on the data and doesn't say. Okay, so which means anytime it doesn't indicate, you just automatically choose the first one. I'm sure you saw I just dropped it there in the middle, just left it there for now. So change the chart title. Okay, so copy the title. Copy. Go back. Open title box. Highlight over. Paste in. Click outside the box. Check for no extra spaces. Go back. Resize and reposition. So left corner, right corner. You've done this a few times too. Left corner, B18. Don't touch the grid lines. So come over here to B, you're skipping a line in between, and I'm going to put it kind of close, but not touching the grid lines. Now I can adjust from lower right, D33, so use the handlebar. Go into D and up. We're actually making it smaller this time, and then you can just check and make sure you're in there. So yeah, you're in 33 for sure. I think you could drag it over a bit more. You don't have to be that far in, although it still would have marked it right, as long as you're not touching the grid lines. Then... obviously, like where the scatters all ended up in the scatter chart you chose, just the dots. And there was a bunch of different scatter types you saw you could do in there. But that has nothing to do with how the space is being used. We're just not using the space well because there's so much space in between. So we are going to change the horizontal axis. So horizontal, not vertical this time, but horizontal. Format axis. So minimum is 35,000. It's okay how high it's going, just not there. That's better. So now we're more in the range, horizontally at least. What else do we have to do? Change the minimum value to 35,000. Horizontal. Change minimum value of vertical to 1,500. So it didn't. Okay, so go to vertical. Click. Right click. Format axis. Minimum 1,500. Okay, that's better. Added linear trend line to clarify the relationship between the advertising expenditures and the plans sold. This is a cool tool. So let's go back to the beginning where we were doing all those different things to charts, and we have the design tab and we have the format tab. But when we're dealing with legends and data labels, like it was just one of the many options in here. So if we haven't done a trend line before, but we know how to find options, this is what the quizzes are like. They're helping you explore different menus for the same menu, but for different types of things. So trend lines here, and we're going to add linear. So it's just an automatic option there. And was it linear forecast or just linear? What was it? Linear or something? Hang on. Add a linear trend line. So that was it, just linear. So we go back, we choose trend line, linear. Done. Then we've got this nice little trend line that shows that the scatters are staying close to the trend, which is a nice looking uptrend, which is always good to see. And that is it for the scatter chart. We've got one more chart left and then we're completed. I told you this one wasn't going to be quite as long, and then we'll submit and get that hundo, and you guys know what to do. Arjun also wants to compare the amounts, create a clustered column chart based on B4 to C16. So same worksheet. We're going to highlight B4 over to C and down to 16. So we're only doing advertising. We're not doing the number of plans sold. And we're going to do clustered column. So insert. We could do probably just stick to clustered column. Just 'cause. Okay, and it's right away, it's going to be left corner, right corner. So left corner is F3. So just there. Don't worry about leaving that open when you're doing stuff. It always comes right back up when you need it to. Just don't be touching the grid lines, just like the beginning. Don't get way in there. Just be in the white space. And then L16. So we're going to pull over to L. Always use the lower right because you can do the side to side and the up and down. And we're going up to 16 here. Just check. And that up. See, I'm still in 17. Get into 16 and just kind of tuck it into the corner, but not touching. Make sure that none of the border of the chart is ever touching the grid line, and you'll always get your positioning correct. Hey, notice too, that was kind of cool. Like Excel always does have a little bit of AI going on. Like when you created that, it didn't advise you in any way to put a title in, and it just gave it that title. So depending on the type of chart you do, sometimes it will know based on what you pick up, like what the title should be. And it did there. So it just added the title and it didn't say to change it. So you can just leave the title the way it was. This next step, easy. So you've got all the columns, like each of these separate columns, and there's a lot of space in between them. And sometimes the way Excel formats stuff just isn't ideal in terms for visuals. So it'd be nice if they filled in the space a bit more. And what did I teach you when you want to mess around with stuff? Click on the axis, right click. Click on the bars, right click. Don't click on them again, or otherwise you'll individually highlight one bar. And then you go to Format Data Series. So I just clicked on any bar, they all highlight. You go to Format Data Series. You can see it's at 219% width, and they want you to be at 50. So change that to 50. And say, oh, you can use the arrows too, whatever, but that's going to take way too long. You can also just type in 50. Just type in 50 and hit enter. It's the fastest way. And that's way better, right? Look at all that white space you filled up. You can close the box again. And finally, they want you to add a single data label. So you've done data labels. At the beginning, you did data labels, and you just went into the chart element box and turned them on. But this is just for one bar. It's the highest one, June. So you already have the bars highlighted. If you have all the bars highlighted, you click on one of them again. It will singularly highlight that one. Those both words. Making up words whenever I record videos. It will highlight that as a singular item. And if you once again right click and go to Format Data Point, oh, that just takes me back to the Format Data Point. Sorry, I didn't even have to go in there. Right click, it's right there. Data label. You get to it just by right clicking. And they have a call out version, which is kind of cool. They got the lines going to the data labels. There might be examples on the quiz that ask you to choose different types. They just want a straight up data label. So you just choose that from the right click or command click, and you've done what you need to do. Was there a Mac hint there? No, she should be able to get to that by command clicking. Yeah, and that's it. You're done. So let's turn it in, moment of truth. Save our file. I often just close it just to make sure because it forces you to save then. Now, I will not have timed out because I've done it in a time that the video was. I had to stop and go a couple times. But if you've gone longer than 90 minutes, you might have to refresh your screen. I just like to remind you about that once in a while. Good to go. Yeah, I know. That's because I'm the teacher. Oh, yeah, that's what, hey, by the way, that's what happens. I'm glad we did that. I got to show you this at least once. If you start trying to borrow each other's work, that's what happens. I actually click back into the wrong section, so it knows I did this from another section. They're both my files, but Yeah, give me 1 second. Okay, there, I just had to go back out to the Instructor Resource Center and log back into the right section. So, assuming you're not trying to submit someone else's file, which that's what happens, by the way. That's why I never have to worry about students cheating here. It's like impossible to cheat. You have to do your own file. I'm okay with you helping each other out once in a while, but I mean, on a test, when it comes to you have to do your own files. So that's good. File's good. Submit. Grab the grade report. And I always show you the report. Go in, go to downloads, and open it up. And once your Excel opens, your computer might be a little quicker than mine. Assuming you followed every step exactly the way I did it in this video, once again, you should have 100%. 100%. And as I've explained before, if I ever do make a mistake along the way and I submit it and it's not 100, I go back and fix it. That didn't happen on the last two. I've been quite on my game, actually. So there you go. And what do we cover this week? Charts, and more charts, and mini charts and different types of charts. So once again, use these videos as you will. Use them at your own pace. Speed them up. Go back. Rewind. Pause. Just keep in mind when we get to the test, which is simply another case that you will have done 5 times at that point. There is no video showing you how to do every step. It is open resource, but you will have to complete your own file in a certain amount of time. So you're a couple weeks away from that. But if you're doing these cases and you're doing the work every week, and now you're going to go and complete the quiz. So now it's time. You finish the week 4 case, go do the week 4 quiz. Do the quizzes, guys. Do the quizzes. And remember the answers. Remember that all the answers are in the training. Okay? That's it for this week. I will see you in week 5.